March 2021. Nick was busy doing his best to be open-minded about moving into a new apartment. With this goal, he looked into areas outside his comfort zone such as Ephrata and even Lancaster City. There was even a place close to a bar. This month's struggles included some heavy arguments with his brother and dwelling on former staff he did not get along with. Stealing food has been a struggle and will often cause tension. This also was the month that Nick applied to Redner's. Nick showed patience when the BSS had multiple family members getting COVID, and there were many days the BSS was not there.
April 2021. Nick struggles like the rest of his team with the rules to stay safe regarding COVID. Dylan also did his best in reassuring Nick of the work being done to find Nick a CS staff. Steven also communicated with Nick about the work that the company is doing to obtain staff. Nick shared that he did notice that his anxiety was increasing while driving with the Uber driver. BSS talked to Nick about his news of obtaining new job. Nick was excited, and the BSS shared in his enthusiasm. Rob and Dylan talked to Nick about being independent when making already decided choices rather than constantly relying on staff support. Nick knows the answer himself to many questions. Nick agreed that he was calling and asking questions he already knew the answers for and decided to work on calming techniques before calling staff for support. Unfortunately, this was a month when Nick continued to have verbal arguments with his brother. April 26th was Nick's first day working at Giant. He shared that the shift went relatively quick, and he felt like he was learning a lot. He spoke about needing to be more independent of the employment specialist moving forward as he learns to master the job expectations. The BSS shared that he was very encouraged by the news of his first day and reminded him to be patient with himself as he is learning new skills.
May 2021. The taking of food continued to be a struggle as Nick admitted that he felt it was too tempting to resist. Nick cooperated with staff as they redirected him not to be overly concerned about the family's actions when they are mad at him. Nick agreed that he could not control their actions. Nick understood that he was the contributor to the problem. The BSS contacted Nick as he shared through text. "I freaking hate y'all." Nick wanted to apologize to the BSS for saying what he said. He explained that this was done as his father forgot to give him his Able card to get items he needed for work. The BSS communicated understanding while setting firm limits with the proper dialogue, talking to family and peers. Nick also communicated his frustration with one peer as he does not answer his calls at times. The BSS asked Nick how often he calls this friend, and Nick responded, saying that he calls every day. The BSS modeled his own behavior of not appreciating a daily call from his own best friend. There is often nothing new to talk about. Nick also agreed that listening to the same stories and talking about the same events can get tiring if he and Paul talk about these topics.
June 2021. June was a big month as Nick found an apartment through his former staff. He was able to find positive thoughts about this individual who he had difficulty forgiving in the past. Dylan did well in communicating with Nick's new landlord and connecting her to Nick and his parents. There were a lot of details, and Nick handled the changes far better than the staff expected. Nick continued to verbalize the stressors at work. The BSS did his best in reminding Nick of all the times he has been successful in the past. He had every reason to believe that his success would continue. Calling Paul almost every day continued to be unwise. There shouldn't be an expectation for a friend to want to talk each day. Nobody should bring an expectation of an individual to talk. Nick had another situation that led him to be angry at his family for being mean to him. However, this was the consequence of taking food that didn't belong to him. Nick has matured dramatically, and even though the temptation isn't there anymore because he is living on his own, staff are confident that Nick would be respecting his family more due to him gaining independence and maturity. Nick expressed multiple times that the sessions done through Zoom are exhausting. Rob and Dylan agreed that Zoom sessions remind everyone of quarantines and lockdowns.
July 2021.
Both clinicians were out of town for the 4th of July. The BSS shared with Nick that his SSB made a boundary based on his personal needs, and the BSS shared that he was able to take all of the days that Nick is missing dialogue with his SSB.
Nick respected the boundary. Nick contacted Rob to give a rundown on how he dealt with the day as he has been dealing with racing thoughts and being overly concerned with details about his move. He shared with the BSS his progress with his packing, and the BSS praised Nick for his maturity. Nick was respectful as he also voiced that he wanted the BSS to enjoy his family this 4th of July. Nick continued to be excited about his new apartment but hesitant to believe in his success. Nick talked talked to the BSS about his fears of not being able to pay his bills on time. The BSS reminded Nick that he has a budget that can handle his expenses and that Dylan worked with him to ensure he had the means necessary to succeed. The first week of Nick living on his own went much better than expected. Nick's father also was pleased with Nick's handling of the changes. He and staff assumed that Nick would be much more stressed than he was and get more inappropriate with people around him through calls and texts. Rob agreed to help Nick set up automatic payments for utilities. That was a headache for everybody, but Nick persevered. Nick worked briefly with a CS named Sal. Unfortunately, Sal needed to move on. Anxiety was difficult at times as Nick sent some mean messages. However, the staff is thankful that Nick is humble enough to restore peace and apologize. The team isn't perfect either.
August 2021. Staff reassured Nick this month while he dealt with feeling like staff work harder for other clients than for himself. Nick was quick to not dwell on something that did not make sense. We all do the best we can with any client we work with. During the August team meeting, the staff was pleased to hear a piece of music that Nick wrote. We all enjoyed it. Nick did well getting through some stress with dealing with money, bank accounts, bills, and the stupid Compass site that gave one chance to get a password correct before it locked him out. Nick's dad talked about safety measures to make sure that Nick can pay his bills if anything happens to his work situation. SSB and BSS have also encouraged Nick that it is still his money. Nick has a difficult time accepting this. Nick learned of another CS moving on from the company and shared that he was frustrated. Nick has been going through multiple staff members who have left his case to no fault of his own. Nick understands that it is just circumstances, and it is nothing to be taken personally. He knows that the company is working hard to find new staff to fill the CS hours needed.
September 2021. This month, Nick did well in sharing his struggles with September memories. Nick had a game night at his apartment. Nick has been looking forward to his friend having a game night at his house, yet his friend has not been able to host the game nights anymore. Nick has shared his sadness about this development. The SSB reminded Nick that he has his place now. So why doesn't he invite everyone interested to his home? Nick shared that he did not think of that and was excited about the invitation. This month brought some moderate stress when a manager left Giant. The new staff coming in seems to be an undesired change for everyone who works at the store. When it was time for game night, Nick shared that he was anxious about hosting. He said he was also excited yet worried about problems coming up. Dylan reassured Nick that there shouldn't be any problems. Nick hosted well, and everyone had a great time.
October 2021. Nick struggled more this month with the hostile customers at work. He shares that the complaining of staff members at Giant can feel contagious as he also wants to complain about the same issues they deal with. Nick did well at overcoming the incident where he was accused of putting an item in the wrong bag for the customer. Nick knew the problem was much smaller than his emotions made it to be. This was resolved with another staff member admitting that it was his mistake. The BSS asked Nick if he believed he handled the situation correctly. Nick shared that he did and recognized that these frustrations happen to everybody.
November 2021. We are making this month quick. Nick spent a tremendous amount of time worried about whether Giant would give him the days he asked off for Thanksgiving. He is concerned that he will not be given Thanksgiving off and a day when his video game will be released. Nick understood that things like this happen to everyone.
December 2021. Like Thanksgiving, Nick was overly concerned with the days not being given to him for Christmas. Nick shared that he was handling the frustration better, but wished he could find out the plans. Nick knew that he would still have plenty of time with family during the holidays. The BSS spoke to Nick on the phone and helped develop a schedule for when the BSS can check in with him in the upcoming mornings. Nick will lack staff this forthcoming week, as staff members will be going on vacation for Christmas time. The BSS spoke to Nick on the phone about upcoming holiday stressors that he may encounter. He shared that he will be visiting his brother's grave with the family as they do each Christmas. He shares that he is okay for the most part when he is there. His brothers have been visiting Nick, and the BSS noticed how giving they have been to him. They have been annoyed and distant each time they would come home. But since Nick is out of the house now, it appears as if the relationship has benefited. Nick talked about enjoying times with his brothers by going to Complete Inbox and GameStop. Nick's relationship with his brothers is not always the best, but since Nick has moved out of the home, there have been fewer points of tension. Nick talked about being stressed with getting back to work during his days off. The BSS validated Nick, and Nick agreed that it will not take long to get back into the swing of things. Nick admitted that he was still thankful for the time off.